Good lighting, everything, no problems.
Maybe you are relaxed.
Yeah, definitely. I came home last night, fairly afternoon, but I was busy at night, and then today I'm just I have to do a lot of work, but I'm also relaxing a little bit on the side as well. Yeah.
Maybe you are very busy.
Yeah, I'll get busy. It's always good to be busy, I guess.
Mm. You have another job? No.
I do, yeah. I have a bunch of stuff going on right now. So also applying to, graduate school. So maybe I will be in school in a few months. I don't know. We'll see.
Mm. Still student?
Well, I was a student until 2 years ago, and then I worked for 2 years, and now I'm also working just, Colingo and small jobs and reapplying to, graduate schools to see
Mm.
if I can, because graduate, master's degrees are, I think they help you with your, when you want to get a career, I think they help. Because I only have a bachelor's so far, so
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. I don't know yet. It's kind of, sometimes it's kind of stressful because young people in the United States, a lot of us are really trying to figure out what we want to do.
Mm.
Um, Jobs are not always available for us, so we have to work hard to make sure that um, we have a good career, we have good jobs and things like that.
How about the unemployed rate? It's getting better. This.
The unemployment rate, I think, is lower, but I mean the growth that we are seeing in unemployment, like when we hear that the unemployment rate is decreasing,
Mm.
usually the decreasing is or the that decrease is accounted to people who are in like service, like small jobs, like maybe the fast food workers, the hourly workers, they see an increase in employment, and that brings down the overall unemployment rate. We're not
Mm.
seeing real growth in other industries, in other like the service industry, many other kinds of things
Mm.
have a lot of are not seeing that much growth. So yeah.
Hamburger shop or such job is very tough. I heard so.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the kind of like the jobs that we see, with like hourly wages, and we have, I mean, tough living standards. You're not making a lot of money, but you have a job. I mean, I don't know how much that helps with the overall look of things, or the overall, change in unemployment. We have a long way to go. We have a long way to go. Um, it's not easy to think about all this stuff
Mm.
because sometimes we have a lot of challenges. So
Mm.
we have to see, wait and see, I guess.
Mm.
We have to work hard.
Yeah. Mm. Japan was suffering long years economic recession, but maybe the earthquake, it was kind of lucky for Japan. So they
Yeah,
a lot of donation and even government concentrate money to that place. So it's a kind of construction boom.
yeah. It's not 100% easy, honestly. I think with Japan, it's actually really nice because I think if a young person really succeeds in Japan, like if a Japanese person wants to succeed, that they can because Japan has such an aging population. I think they need young people to stay in Japan and to work hard in Japan, right? Um,
But America has a kind of system. If you want to um, some make some business, your own business, there are many supporting system, right?
yes, yes, absolutely. Entrepreneurship in the United States is very highly valued, and
Mm.
still one of the things that I think is really good about America. Like if you want to do a small business, if you want to make your own business,
Mm.
it's very, very, very. there are a lot of support mechanisms, absolutely. Like the government helps you, private banks, the system is in place for you to succeed if you work hard and if you are
In
not
Japan, it's
lazy.
very difficult.
In Japan, it's very difficult, really.
No supporting system, no
Wow.
invest.
How come?
Yeah, before I opened my shop, at that time I went to the bank to borrow some money, but it was very difficult. They couldn't believe me.
Really?
Yeah.
How come?
Then finally I gathered some money from my parents. Then
Uh-huh.
I opened.
But why do they not want to believe people?
At first I was female.
Uh-huh. Why does that matter?
I don't know. Even my friend, she is a tax accountant. She
Uh-huh.
wanted to buy a small house. Then she went to the bank, but even the bank didn't believe her.
I
For
don't
men, for
understand.
men, it's very easy to borrow money from bank, but for female, it's very difficult. And now situation is changing. Mm.
I guess what I don't understand is why would the gender matter for if you want to, you know?
Mm. Almost all
Honestly.
leader or CEO or men. Women
Yeah,
are
but Japan's changing though, right? I mean, women
changing.
are, uh-huh.
I mean, it's 10 years ago, but now changing. But the system is not changing so much.
So would you still say that Japan is a very patriarchal society?
Mm. So if you want to employ and you want to work in a company, it's very good. But if you want to have some business, it's very difficult. You need to make money by yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's funny. I mean, not funny, but it's surprising to me that that's the case. I would imagine Japan to have very easy rules for setting up businesses because Japanese people are very business oriented. I mean, the world's what, third largest economy? I mean,
Mm.
it's a very, very strong country on the international market when it comes to capitalism and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's interesting to see why it's taking that long. But hey, Humud, welcome back.
Thank you.
We're going to wait just a little bit more, just a couple more minutes, guys. But today's class, so we're going to be looking at intensifiers, right? Kind of similar to our last class, Humud, when we were talking about comparatives and superlatives, but there are differences in those two lessons, right? When we talk about intensifiers, there are three types of intensifiers, right? There are emphasizers, amplifiers, and downtoners, right? So emphasizers are words that we use, are adverbs that we use to emphasize our sentences when we want to give something more force or more certainty or more importance in a sentence, right? So when we think about adverbs, right? What can adverbs do? Adverbs can modify other adverbs, they can modify adjectives, and they can modify verbs, right? So when we use an adverb in a sentence, we can really add to the meaning of whatever we're trying to say, right? And this is where emphasizers become important. So I can say, for example, I'm extremely happy that you guys have joined my class, right? I'm extremely happy, right? I'm intensifying my happiness, my feeling of happiness. I could have just said I'm happy that you guys came to class. I say I'm extremely happy. I'm intensifying that situation, right? So that's one example, right? That's one example of an adverb that also works as an emphasizer, right? And we can also have other adverbs like she's really glad, she's really angry, right? Really also adds to the meaning of the adjective or or the verb that we are talking about. Another example is so, right? I'm so happy that you got the new job, right? Um, I'm incredibly happy. People say incredibly, so, really, extremely, you know, all of these words are emphasizers, right? So when we think about, so what's an example? Could you guys think of an adverb that can work as an emphasizer? The examples we looked at included extremely, you know, so, very, you know, I guess you can say very. Very is, I'm sorry, go ahead, Heidi.
To or so.
So, yeah, so is there. Really is also there. Um, I think those are really good. Like incredibly, extremely, incredibly, so, really. Um, I guess in common conversation we say ridiculously a lot, especially young people. Like that is ridiculously expensive. It's like so expensive that it's ridiculous, right?
How about the significantly?
Significantly also works, yeah. Significantly, um, depending on how you use it, right? So what would be an example of significantly?
Significantly. Uh-huh.
For example, he is significantly taller than her.
Yeah.
He is significantly more taller than her,
Yes.
right? He is significantly more taller than her. So you're saying you could have just said he is more tall than he is taller than her, or he is whatever, right?
He's significantly rich.
He is significantly rich. Yeah, it works. It works. It works, but it's for some reason when we use significantly, we like to use more or less to describe kind of. So the more rich or the richer, that's the example of a comparative, right, Humud?
Significantly
And then,
richer. Oh,
yeah, he's significantly richer than most people in his country, for
yeah.
example,
Okay.
right? That'd be one example. Yeah. So what about another one of these words, Heidi? Another one of these intensifiers, right? I'm sorry, emphasizers. Yeah.
Truly.
Truly, yeah.
Obviously.
Obviously, truly, very, right? All of these are good ones. Truly, very, obviously, right? So we're thinking of
What
words like
about very?
very is good too. Very is an adverb. It's maybe not as strong as something like extremely, but it still works as an emphasizer, right? And we use
And
very a lot.
many.
Many doesn't really work, no, because many is just talking about number, right? Or I mean, for maybe a count noun, right?
Quantity.
Yeah, quantity-wise, many is important, right? But not so much in the sense of working as an adverb, right? Many really isn't an adverb either.
Clearly.
Clearly, right? Clearly is a good one. So, for example, you know, he is clearly more educated than her, whatever.
Surprisingly.
Surprisingly, right? These are all really good examples. Um, let's make a sentence. Heidi, can you make a sentence with one of these?
He's surprisingly honest.
He is surprisingly honest. Yeah, that's really good, right? Instead of he is honest, no, you're emphasizing how honest he is. Surprisingly honest, right? Out of most people you know, nobody is as honest as this person, right? Hamoud, give me 1 second. Give me another example, just like we heard from Heidi.
He is extremely work hard. Hard
He
work.
he is an extremely hard worker.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one, right? He is an extremely hard worker. So that's one example that we can use as well, right? You're emphasizing the fact that he is extremely hardworking. Maybe he's very dedicated, right? He's extremely dedicated. He's incredibly dedicated. He's really dedicated, right? He's a really hard worker. These are all ways that we can use intensifiers, right? Or emphasizers in this case. So he's ridiculously hardworking, or he's a, exactly, right? And ridiculously, I think, is one of those words that really we use more in the sense of when we are talking about colloquially, like young people use ridiculously a lot, maybe too much, right? Like I say it a lot, you know, like if something is very expensive, that is ridiculously expensive. Or we say, you know, he's ridiculously smart. You know, it's it might not be as formal, like maybe the English people don't say it as much, like the people in England, maybe not, they don't say it as much, but we say it a lot in the US as young people say it a lot as a way to emphasize, um, different situations, ridiculously rich, ridiculously poor, ridiculously handsome, ridiculously beautiful, I don't know, whatever, right? Those are ways that we can use that, right? So these are emphasizers, guys. Any questions about emphasizers so far of what we're looking at?
No question.
Okay. Then, so the first type we look at is emphasizers, right? The second type are amplifiers, right? Amplifiers, so when you amplify something, right? If you amplify sound, what do? You're making it bigger, right? You are enlarging the meaning of something when you amplify something, right? So the difference between emphasizing and amplifying, emphasizing is when we are giving it more force. We are feeling so much more passionate about what we are talking about, right? Emphasizing is saying that you are going from a little bit or not so much to a more whole meaning, to a larger meaning of that word, right? So one of the things that I think really helps is the best example of common English amplifiers, I would say, is completely, right? I completely understand what you are telling me, right? I don't understand it just a little. I don't understand it just, 50%. I completely understand what you're telling me, right? Totally, yeah, totally, completely, right? Another one is wholly, right? It's not completely. We don't use wholly a lot, but we use wholly for the word responsible, the adjective responsible. For example, the criminal was wholly responsible for his action, right? If somebody kills somebody else, right, and then we find out that, this guy is a murderer and only he acted in this manner, then he is wholly responsible, right? He is wholly responsible. So that's one way we can think about it. Totally responsible, completely responsible, right? Completely understanding something, totally understanding something, right? So wholly, totally, completely. What are some of
Entirely.
entirely? Yeah, fantastic. Entirely, right? What's a sentence with entirely?
What?
What's a sentence that we can say with entirely?
I agree with you entirely.
I agree with you entirely, right? Or, for example, mm, yeah, I like that sentence. I agree with you completely or entirely, right? Um,
I drink my water entirely. My juice.
uh, that one is a little bit more. That one doesn't work so well, Hamoud, right? I like where you're thinking. I like what you're thinking, but we don't normally say something like that, right? We would say maybe, for example, instead of like I drank my glass, like fully. I think fully makes a little bit more sense when we are talking about something that we are consuming, right? So, for example, I drank. That's such a good question. How would I say that? I completely, or I guess the best way would just be to say I finished drinking my glass of whatever, but you can say I also drank the water. I I fully drank the water or I fully drank the juice, right? It makes a little bit more sense, although that's a very good question. Heidi, do you have an idea of that? I'm trying to think of the best way to say
What kind
that.
of what kind
For,
of
for example, if you're drinking something, like you drink it fully, right? Juice or something, you just completely drink it fully or you completely finish it. Entirely doesn't work so much, Hamoud, but I'm trying to think what would work. I completely drank it. I fully drank it. Yeah, I think fully would work a little bit better, Hamoud.
oh,
Yeah. Or like
he
I finished my meal or something like that. Yeah, go ahead.
entirely denied my opinion.
Entirely is what?
Denied my opinion.
Entirely would be I entirely denied my opinion
Yeah. No.
or his opinion. Denying something. Hmm. You know what's good for that one, Heidi? The word categorically.
Mhm.
Categorically works really with deny. Works really well with deny, right? If
Mhm.
I categorically deny something, then
Mhm.
I completely deny it. Like I have zero intention of liking it, believing it, accepting it,
Com-
right?
completely denied.
Completely deny something is also works very well. Yeah. Categorically works a little bit better. It sounds a little bit more formal,
Mm.
right? So for example, politicians sometimes say, or when we were talking about like different countries, like relationships between countries, the president of Syria categorically denied the allegations,
Mm.
right? Somebody said he was using chemical weapons, Bashar al-Assad. He said, no, I categorically deny these claims. I have
Mm.
nothing to do with them. 100% false. This is 100% false. I have nothing to do with them, right? I categorically deny something. So that's a very good point there. Um, so any questions, guys, about amplifiers? What they do and how we make them?
Mm. Okay.
Everything's good? Hamud,
Oh,
does it make sense?
Everything is okay.
Alrighty, everything is okay. You guys completely understand this lesson, right? And
perfectly.
perfectly, yeah, I perfectly understand this lesson, right? Okay, good. So now the third one, guys, so we looked at emphasizers and we looked at amplifiers, right? The third category is when we use downtoners. So what is a downtoner? What does that even sound like? If something is downtoned, or if something is toned down, it's the best way to say it, right? Something is toned down. In English, we say that think of it as the opposite of emphasizing something. We are de-emphasizing something, right? We are making the meaning less than it's supposed to be, or we are decreasing the meaning of something, right? That's where tone down and downtoners become really important, right? So think of it this way. Like if I want to say, like my Arabic is very weak, right? My Arabic is very weak, so I can say, I kind of understand Arabic,
Mm.
right? I don't completely understand it. I don't totally understand it. I don't fully understand it. I kind of understand it, right? So kind of is a downtoner. It is decreasing the meaning of what we are talking about, right? Somewhat is another downtoner. I somewhat understand this lesson, right? Somewhat understand this lesson. I partly understand this lesson.
What does it mean? Partly, somewhat, kind of.
They're all decreasing the meaning, right? So some partly is like less than full, right? A part of something compared to something that's full, big, right? So if you understand just one part, you're not understanding everything, right? So you're partly understanding something.
When I say
Somewhat, yeah, go ahead.
when I say I partly understand you,
Uh-huh.
how much percent?
There's no strict number percentage, but what you are telling me is I don't
Almost.
understand you fully, right? Or I not even almost. Partly is less than almost. Partly is like maybe I got some of what you said, but I didn't understand a lot of other stuff, right? So it's the idea of understanding less than you want to understand, right? Really not understanding something, I think. I partly understand, like maybe if I tell you 5 things, you understand 2 of them.
Mm.
That would be partly, right?
I,
And somewhat.
Somewhat the same idea, right? Kind of, somewhat, right? I kind of get what you're saying. I kind of understand what you're saying, right? I kind of like going to the beach.
I was slightly surprised.
Slightly, right? Same situation, right? Slightly surprised, right? We are de-emphasizing. This is the opposite of an emphasizer. Technically, it's an opposite of an amplifier also, right? Because you're saying less than the whole, less than the 100%, right? You're partly understand something, slightly understand something, slightly surprised by something, somewhat happy, right? Let's say somebody says, I'm somewhat happy. Okay, that means they're not really happy.
I was
They're, yeah.
maybe surprised.
I'm sorry, say that again, Heidi.
I was maybe surprised.
I was maybe surprised, right? Well, maybe,
Maybe no.
maybe is not as good an example, simply because when we think about it, it's a little bit. I mean, maybe is an adverb, but when we are thinking about it in the sense of a downtoner, maybe indicates more of a possibility, right? Maybe we use more as a way to say possibility, like maybe this will happen, maybe this won't happen. When we're talking about a feeling, we're more confident about what we are saying, right? Like feelings are usually not possibilities; they are usually more concrete, right? So in that sense, I think it's better to use something like kind of, somewhat, partly, slightly. Um, and let's see. I'm trying to think of another example. Um,
A little,
kind of is very popular. I'm sorry, Heidi, I didn't hear that one.
a little, a
A,
little.
a little, yeah, but it doesn't really work, right? It's not really an adverb. If you use it in conversation, people will understand, right? I understand a little of what you're saying. I understand a little bit of what you're saying,
Mm,
right? A little bit of what you're saying. So I guess a little bit could work, but a little bit really indicates almost zero understanding,
mm,
right? Because you're saying little, so you're really de-emphasizing it to a very low level, right? Um, Humud, give me an example with slightly.
I slightly watch TV.
I
I
slightly watch.
slightly I slightly understand English programs on TV or English news.
I like that. I like that. I like where you're going with that. I slightly understand English programs on TV. Slightly is good, Humud, very, very good. But when it comes to understanding something, yes, it works. But there is one other downtoner here that we wrote that's a little bit better.
mm.
Which one do you think is a little bit better? Slightly works, but there's one that's a little bit better. There are actually
I
two that
can
are a little bit better. Yeah,
I
go ahead.
somewhat
I somewhat understand English programs on TV, right? That is much better. It sounds much better. It sounds much more conversationally um, proper, right? I kind of understand English programs on TV. I somewhat understand English programs on TV. Kind of and somewhat are really probably the most powerful downtoners in English, right? We use kind of a lot, right? I kind of like that movie. I kind of like that movie. I somewhat like that. Somewhat is even more formal than kind of, right? People answer with kind of, like, let's say you ask somebody, did you like that movie? Kind of. That's all they say. They don't even repeat, you know. And if you're more formal, then you can say somewhat, right? Or kind of, right? Did you like, you ask children, uh, did you like dinner? Did you like the dinner I made? Yeah, I kind of liked it, right? Because they're saying that they don't. If a parent hears that, that means no, they didn't like it, because you want the children to be very happy. Yeah, I really liked it. That's what they say. I mean, kids all over the place. So kind of is much less, and we are de-emphasizing it. So kind of and somewhat really do a very good job. Heidi, did you have a question?
For example, he seemed slightly angry.
He seemed slightly angry. Fantastic. Slightly angry, right? So when it comes to like describing a person's state, I think slightly works very, very well, right? He seemed slightly angry. He seemed slightly happy, right? I was slightly, or I guess, yeah, I would stick to feelings, guys. I would stick to those kinds of feelings. Slightly happy, slightly angry, slightly excited, you know, but kind of and somewhat really work all the time. Kind of excited,
Mm.
kind of happy, somewhat happy, right? Those are very, very, very powerful. Um, any questions, guys, on this so far? So that's all I wanted to cover for the grammar with emphasizers, amplifiers, as well as downtoners.
No question.
No questions? Humudi, okay?
Yes, the last 5 words, is it comes under toned down?
Yeah, these last ones are all under toned down, yeah. Are all under downtoners, I should say.
Down tone, okay.
Downtoners, yeah. So did you kind of understand downtoners or did you completely understand downtoners?
Completely.
Completely. Great, great, fantastic. We are going to have more review as well when we are talking about the article. So as always, guys, ask questions. So today's article, guys, I like this article. I spent some time in this country that we are talking about Turkey actually. Country is actually very close to my heart, and recently in Turkey, they decided to reverse a 90-year-old rule, right? So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of history because it's not going to make sense otherwise. In 1928 or 30, something like that, Turkey became a secular republic, okay? Before 1928 or whatever it was, Turkey was actually an empire. It was the Ottoman Empire. It was the last real Muslim empire or Islamic empire in the world. Okay, and they started in the 1400s. About 500 years later, they were defeated, and the Turkish Republic, the modern nation of Turkey, was born. Right. As a result of that transformation, many different things happened. So the guy who led Turkey in that Republican stage, was a guy named Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, right? I'm just going to write this guy's last name, Ataturk. He is considered by many people in Turkey still to be kind of their eternal president. He is the founder of the country, the father of the country, extremely respected and very, extremely important figure in their history. So when he came to power in 1928 or whatever, he decided to make some rules that were very different from what the rules of the Ottoman period was. So right before Turkey became Turkey, the Islamic culture was very strong in many aspects of government, right? Many aspects of law and government. But he decided to change a lot of those things. So one of the things that he did was he said, for example, that the Turkish language was changed in terms of its alphabet. It used to be written in the Arabic letters. It became changed to be written in the English letters, in the Latin alphabet, right? He changed a lot of things. He wanted Turkey to become a modern country, and he associated Islamic and Arabic and that worldview to be more backward, right? He didn't want that to be the case for his people. And one of the things he did also was he said that women should not wear the headscarf, right? If they are, police, military, if they want to work in a government building, if they want to work for the government, they cannot wear headscarves, right? And girls who want to attend universities, public universities, could not wear headscarves, right? And this became a religious issue because even though the country became a secular republic, many Turkish people were still very religious, right? So it became a question of personal rights. Where does religion end and government begin, right? The separation of government and religion. And it became a very important issue. So for 90 years, this was the rule in Turkey, right? So this generation, the generation that lived before it, people whose grandparents, 1928 is a long time ago, this is the first time in maybe 3 generations of Turkey that we are seeing a change in this rule. So their government decided to lift the ban on headscarves. So now women can wear headscarves if they want to work for the government. There are still some areas that they cannot wear the headscarf, but they can wear the headscarf if they work for the government, right? So this has changed. It's a very big change for their people, for the women of Turkey. So we are going to look at this article, guys. Let us start with, so I'm just going to paste the article here. The article itself is from a Middle Eastern website called Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera is probably the CNN of the Middle East, very popular news channel. And so we can go with this, guys. Let's click the link. I'm going to click the I'm going to share my screen as well here, and we can get started. 1 sec. All right. Al Jazeera. Okay. Turkey lifts decades-old ban on headscarves. Measure allowing women to sport the Islamic headscarf in state institutions is part of broader package of reforms. Right. This guy is the Prime Minister of Turkey. His name is Recep Tayyip Erdogan. He is loved by many, hated by many. Very interesting person. Turkey has lifted a decades-old ban on headscarves in the civil service as part of a package of reforms by the government meant to improve democracy. Tuesday's measure was hailed by Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan, whose wife wears a headscarf, as a step towards normalization and came into effect after it was published in the official Gazette. We have now abolished an archaic provision which was against the spirit of the Republic. It's a step towards normalization, Erdogan said in a parliamentary speech to his ruling party lawmakers. A dark time eventually comes to an end, he said. Headscarf-wearing women are full members of the Republic, as well as those who do not wear it. The ban, whose roots date back almost 90 years to the early days of the Turkish Republic, has kept many women from joining the public workforce. Critics accuse Erdogan of lifting the ban to force his Islamic values on the majority Muslim but staunchly secular nation. When plans to remove the ban were first announced last week, the main opposition party labeled it a serious blow to the secular republic created by modern Turkey's founding father, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, in 1923. Limited ban remains. Erdogan last week unveiled a package of democratic reforms mostly aimed at improving rights for minority Kurds, but he also used the opportunity to take on the highly controversial headscarf ban. Female civil servants are now allowed to wear headscarves while their male counterparts can sport beards. However, the ban remains in place for judges, prosecutors, police, and military personnel. Erdogan's ruling Justice and Development Party pledged to remove the ban on the wearing of headscarves in all domains when it came to power in 2002. It has already relaxed the ban at universities. The highly charged debate lies at the heart of Turkey's divisions between religious conservatives, who form the bulk of Erdogan's AKP supporters, and more secular members of society. In 1999, Turkish-American lawmaker Merve Kavakci arrived in parliament wearing a headscarf for her swearing-in ceremony. She was booed out of the House and had her Turkish citizenship revoked. In stark contrast, a day after Erdogan's announcement of reforms, President Abdullah Gul's wife wore her headscarf to parliament. Right? So really a crazy situation, right? Just 10 years ago, this woman, Merve Kavakci, came to the parliament wearing a headscarf, and she had her Turkish citizenship revoked for doing that. That's a very serious thing, right? Now, the president's wife can come into the same building wearing a headscarf, right? So, really a very interesting situation. Socially talking about the Turkish nation as a country, also looking at the situation of headscarves in general, right? Heidi, what do you think about this? About this change, I should say, about the change that now women are allowed to wear the headscarves again.
Yeah.
Is it a good thing, or is it something that you disagree with?
To change something, and once they need to ban. For example, before a samurai warrior, they had a certain hairstyle. Do you know?
They had a knot, right?
Yeah, that's right.
What was that called again?
Chonmage.
Okay. I remember seeing it in a movie, but I forget the.
They're proud of that, but the government changed to emperor from samurai warrior. So once government banned to have such hairstyle.
And I mean, should people be free to wear what they want to wear?
What?
Should people be free to wear whatever they want to wear?
Wear clothes?
Yeah, like in terms of headscarves or whatever, right?
That time clothes was free,
Uh-huh.
but the government banned to have chonmage on their hair, only men.
Why? Because it was considered part of that old tradition?
Maybe they wanted to change the old culture dramatically.
Uh-huh. Dramatically. Oh, that's a good adverb, right? They wanted to dramatically change the old culture, right? Because I think in the concept of Bushido, they had did was because the samurai lived along the lines of Bushido, right?
Yes, yes.
So
So
yeah, go
they
ahead.
were kind of the social level, four levels. Samurai was top, and second was farmers. The third was the making something, device was making something. The
Hmm.
fourth was merchant.
The
Merchant
merchants were
was
the lowest, really.
yes, yes, but they could earn a lot of money.
Hmm.
Powerful, very powerful, but rebel was the fourth.
Hmm.
Then changed the government. They removed all things, even social level. To remove something, maybe they needed to remove the kind of symbol. Mm. So
Yeah.
maybe Turkey is the same.
Yeah, I think it's a very good comparison because like Turkey it's like when Emperor Meiji in Japan
Yeah.
when he said that we have to open our borders and Japan has to be a modern power, right? There was that divide between the traditional and the modern, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And it caused a lot of problems because the samurai warriors and maybe the more traditional people they didn't want to accept so much of the Western foreign influence, right? At the
Yes.
beginning,
Yes.
I think, right?
Mm.
And it's really the same situation that we're seeing in Turkey. Like Turkey, it's happening now instead of in the 1800s. But in Turkey, the soul of the country is it's still being, you know, contested, right? People are still there is such a strong secular tradition in that country that the country is religion and government are separate, okay? Or
Yeah.
religion cannot be a part of government. But at the same time, so many of the people in the country are religious people.
Mm.
So when you have a democracy, it's the rule of the majority.
Yeah.
So in 2002, this guy Recep Erdogan, he became the prime minister of Turkey, and
Mm.
he is the leader of a religious party. Really, I mean,
Yeah.
so because the religious people like his party, and they have been able to really, the economy has improved a lot in Turkey the last 10, 15 years. So people like him, and they are electing him more and more. The
Mm.
secular people are very worried. I mean, they're not. I wouldn't say they're worried, but they are seeing that departure from their worldview, right?
Mm.
Their worldview is very no. It should the Turkish Republic should always be the way that Ataturk found this country to be, right?
Mm.
We should not deviate from those principles, right?
Mm.
So if Ataturk said no headscarves, then that was to preserve the secular democracy, and we should keep those rules. We should respect those rules, right?
Scarf is a kind of symbol. So once they need to remove that kind of symbol, then it means change the people's idea, a traditional idea.
Exactly, right? Because a scarf is a remnant of the Islamic tradition, right? I
Yes.
mean, countries in which there are only two countries in the world in
Mm.
which the scarf is mandatory,
Yeah.
right? Saudi Arabia and Iran,
Mm. Yes. Yes.
right? So when you
Before
look, yeah,
before I have chance to talk Iran woman. She was a student, and we are talking about something. Then I asked her, why you are wearing a scarf, every woman?
uh-huh,
Is it good for women because of because of heat or the strong sunlight? I
yeah,
asked her. She said, "Yeah, I want to have my free hairstyle, but if I remove my hair scarf, a religious police will arrest me. So I was
Yeah.
very surprised.
Was
Arrest
was she was she from Saudi Arabia?
Iran.
Oh, she's from Iran. Okay, okay. Yep, yep.
So I was surprised.
Yeah, and that's why the secular folks in Turkey, the people who are very cautious about this, right? Because
Mm.
they see allowing, but the thing is, like, if you allow something, you're not saying, like, Turkey will never say you have to wear the headscarf.
Mm.
It's just including those women who, in their traditional lives,
Mm.
they've always worn headscarves, right? So I mean, is it fair to all the millions of Turkish women who want to wear headscarves that if they want to work in the government, their own
Mm.
government, right? I mean, they are Turkish citizens. They have the right to work in their own government, right? But because they wear a headscarf, they can't work in the government until they take it off.
Mm.
I think
Yeah.
that's unfair a little bit, right?
Mm. From our side, it's unfair for wearing something which depend on the person.
Hmm.
But for government, once they need to remove all tradition.
Yeah.
For example, Japan, the female politician number is very few. The diet member is very few. So someone said maybe the government should force the percentage of women to accepting percentage of women.
Hmm.
Then after that, they can remove that rule. But at first, they need to force something to
Hmm.
change the tradition.
Interesting. Would that work in Japan? Is there
No,
popular
no,
popular support for that?
no. A female diet member is very few.
But with this idea of maybe forcing the diet members to include more females, do you think it'll happen?
Yes, it's kind of a debate. Someone said maybe they need to force the female number in the rule.
Hmm.
But it's a debate, so changing rule is very difficult.
Yeah, right. It is, and that's the problem. So I've talked to a lot of Turkish friends of mine, right, and they told me, listen, this is something that was going to happen sooner or later,
Mm.
right? Because this party, when they came to power in 2002, over 10 years ago, right, they
Mm.
they made it clear that they would reverse some of the rulings that were in place in Turkey for
Mm.
10 or for 90 years now, right, for decades. So people knew it was going to happen, or people were aware that, okay, some of these freedoms, some of these ideas of freedom would be changed, right?
Mm.
Because Turkey's rule before, or Turkey's official rule about headscarves, was having the headscarf is it's limiting the woman's ability in the government. It's something that is unnecessary,
Yes, yes.
right? You don't need it. You don't need it, and we don't want it in the
Mm.
government. We don't want our government to look like the government of Iran. We don't want our government to look like the government of Saudi Arabia, where, well, Saudi Arabia has very few females anyway, but female, politicians anyway. But Iran actually has a lot of females participating in the government.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Mm.
they have a few ministers who are women.
Mm.
They have members of the parliament who are women, right? But
Better than Japan.
maybe honestly, I know much better than Saudi Arabia. I don't know about Japan. But their idea was it's not necessary, it's from the past, and we don't want women who are with that mentality, who have
Mm.
that mentality that the headscarf is something that is necessary or whatever. I mean, and I'm sure if a Turkish person listened to this, they would be very angry because maybe I'm not sharing what they actually feel, but as a foreigner, that's what I have heard and that's what I have seen personally, right? So, I mean, the idea is really one of, I mean, it's personal preference, right? Each person,
Yes, yes.
if they want to wear a headscarf,
Mm.
sure, now they can,
Yeah,
right?
even Chonmage is the same, the personal preference. But
Exactly.
the government forced to remove all things.
So if somebody wants to have that knot, that hair knot now, can they in Japan?
That time, if you have someone has Chonmage, it's banned, punished.
But what about now? If I'm a
Now,
Japanese person and I want
yeah,
one,
now perfectly free.
perfectly free, right?
You can
Yeah,
have tomag in Japan. It's okay if
yeah.
you want.
I want to become a samurai in Japan
Oh,
now,
really?
right? And I can go and have that, right? So I mean, I think that's more free, right?
Yeah.
Because now it's really free. You can have it, you can not have it, you can take it off tomorrow, you can not take it off tomorrow, whatever you want,
Yeah.
right? You can do whatever you want, right? And I mean, that's I think it's a step in the right direction personally because before, like when I was in Turkey, right, I saw a lot of girls who wear the
Mm,
headscarf. It's just
mm,
they like wearing it.
mm,
It's almost a part of their dress. Like they don't see it as traditional. They don't see it as maybe they have a religious reason. Maybe they want to respect their bodies. They want
mm,
to avoid, men sometimes look at women in, disrespectful ways and things like that. Maybe
mm,
because of that, they want to wear it as for their personal modesty, for their personal reasons, whatever, right?
mm,
Or maybe their mothers wear it, they wear it, maybe their society, their traditional society wears it, and now they're in the big city, they still want to wear it, right?
mm,
Whatever the
mm,
case, I mean, Turkey is a big country with, somebody from the very traditional part of Turkey, if they come to the city, everything will look different, right?
mm,
And it's unfair to tell somebody, now you have to remove this if you want to go to university,
mhm,
right? Or now you have to remove this if you want to work for the government, right? The secular people, they can do what they want. They can still never wear it, right? No one is saying that they should start to wear it or that, whatever. But
How about
and
Bangladesh? Bangladesh,
completely free,
oh, free.
completely free. Yeah, no one cares.
Mm,
So you can wear a scarf, you can not wear a scarf. You can have like my mother, my sister, they don't wear scarves.
mm,
My mother has never worn a scarf. Uh,
mm,
Only when she was in Saudi Arabia and she was forced to wear it, she wore it.
mm. And then the Bangladesh government is connected to the religion? No.
No, no, secular government.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah, 100% secular. They actually we are. There are many similarities between Turkey and Bangladesh because they the Bangladeshi people also it's a religious country. Like I would say that most Bangladeshis are traditional minded, right?
mm,
It's not enforced in the public space. You can do whatever you want in the public space, but at
mm,
home it's much more traditional, right? So if you are at home and there's an older woman, like maybe a grandmother, she will definitely have her hair covered,
mm,
right? But if you're in the public space, you see young girls with, the latest fashions, not wearing anything to cover their hair. Other girls are more traditional, maybe they're from the village or whatever, but they're from the rural part of the country. Completely free. No one
mm,
cares. There's no rule and there's no problems. But in Bangladesh, we have recently seen some of the religious fundamentalist people are trying to force the government to force the headscarf,
mm,
and they are extremely unpopular. I
mm,
mean, the military even said that we will stop any forcible transition to religious rule or something like that, right?
mm,
So we are a very secular people because for us, our culture is. I said just a little while ago that the religion is important, right? But
mm,
I would say the culture is as important, right? So the culture of Bangladesh and the culture of our people, not only just Bangladesh but also the people in India who speak our language, the Bengali culture is very, very strong. I mean,
mm,
it's a stronger unifier than religion, I would say.
mm,
So like our language, our songs, our dress, our food, our everything in a culture is much more, 98% of the population is from that culture. So it's very homogeneous.
mm.
So that is a very, very, very strong unifier compared to the religion. Religion is there, of course. It's important, but I would say culture is as important. And that's why, because Islam came to Bangladesh pretty late. I would
Oh,
say maybe 500, 600 years ago.
basically, which Hindu or?
Yeah, it was. We were all Hindus before Muslims,
Mm,
right? So like, if you trace maybe my ancestors, I don't know, I mean, where they lived, but 600, 700 years ago, or 500, 600 years ago, they were all Hindus, or they were Buddhists. You know,
yes.
Bangladesh, yeah. Bangladesh still has a large, not large, but they have a significant Buddhist minority. And
Mm,
yeah, so in the southeast of the country, near like Myanmar, like near Burma, a lot of Buddhist people still. Um,
yeah.
yeah, and all of
Japan,
the all
Thailand
yeah,
and Japan.
yeah, Mahayana Buddhism, I think, is
Mm,
still very popular. Um, and you know, what's nice about Bangladesh is that every holiday for every religion
mm.
is, every religious holiday is a holiday for the entire country. So some people joke that that's because Bangladeshis don't want to work, but but honestly, I like the idea. Christmas is a holiday, right? And there are not that many Christians in
Mm,
Bangladesh, right? But Christmas is a holiday. The birthday of the Buddha is a holiday, right?
mm.
The Hindu holidays are all holidays,
Oh,
right? And the Muslim holidays.
oh.
And you have the national holidays. So like the Day of Independence, those kinds of national day, right? It doesn't I don't think there are more than maybe 2 weeks of all of these holidays, right? So maybe 14, 15 days of the year are national holidays. Every religion has its own.
It's the
It's
same as
close.
Japan, maybe.
Yeah, I like that, honestly. I think it's the only Muslim country that has Christmas as a holiday,
Yeah, very
right?
good.
Yeah, like Iran and Saudi Arabia would never give Christmas as a holiday. You know, what's actually very funny for me is my sister was born on Christmas,
Mm.
and both of us were born in Saudi Arabia. So when we joke, we say like she was born in the only country in which her birthday is not a holiday. So it's really funny, but yeah, like
Congratulations.
yeah, I know, right? So Saudi Arabia has that special thing where it's only religious holidays. Bangladesh is much more on the exact opposite side of belief or of our society. I like that, I think it's the best way, it's the best model, I think, for a country that has so much tradition that is non-religious and also the religious tradition. Um, Turkey, I don't know, honestly, what will happen. I mean, do you think that this is something that is a symbol of freedom, allowing this, or is this taking a step back?
Yeah, I think so.
Hmm.
Mm. I mentioned at first they need to remove all traditions. Then after that, if the country became free, they can be allowed it.
Yeah, because the country is definitely secular. I mean, nobody in Turkey is ever going to say that we need a religious government. That will never happen. Just like in
Mm,
Bangladesh, it'll never happen,
mm,
right? These people who are like the crazy minority that wants the religious government, they will never be powerful enough. Uh, if anything, the people will have a revolution to destroy them. You know,
mm,
the same thing in Turkey, right? The religious government, they will never have a religious government,
mm,
but they have enough people in their government now, or enough people in their country where now, I mean, secular democracy is established, so they can now reverse those unfair rules from many years ago,
mm.
right? Just like Bangladesh now, I mean, people can do whatever they want. They can wear whatever they want. If you are going to a more traditional city, then if you are not wearing a scarf, people will look at you maybe, why is
Mm.
she not wearing a scarf? But they're not going to arrest you. They're not going to, nobody can say you
Mm.
should, you have to wear something. Nobody can say that.
Interesting. I learned
Yeah,
a lot. Thank
yeah,
you very
yeah.
much.
Absolutely, Heidi. Well, did you have any questions about the class though? So intensifiers,
No
um,
question.
nothing like that? Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Sounds good,
100%.
Heidi.
So far.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I have two other classes tonight, but later on tonight it's going to be morning tomorrow in Japan. But thanks for a great class again,
Yeah. Thank you very
and
much.
yeah, hope to see you again soon.
Goodbye. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye. Take care. Because young people in the United States, a lot of us are really trying to figure out what we want to do, you know.
Mm.
Um, Jobs are not always available for us, so we have to work hard to make sure that um, we have a good career, we have good jobs and things like that.
How about the unemployed rate? It's getting better.
The unemployment rate, I think, is lower, but I mean, the growth that we are seeing in unemployment, like when we hear that the unemployment rate is decreasing,
Mm.
usually the decreasing is, or the that decrease is accounted to people who are in like service, like small jobs, like maybe the fast food workers, the hourly workers, they see an increase in employment, and that brings down the overall unemployment rate. We're not
Mm.
seeing real growth in other industries, in other like the service industry, many other kinds of things
Mm.
have a lot of are not seeing that much growth, you know. So yeah.
Hamburger shop or that job is very tough. I heard so.
Yeah. I mean, the kind of like the jobs that we see, you know, with like hourly wages, and we have, you know, I mean, tough living standards, you know. You're not making a lot of money, but you have a job. I mean, I don't know how much that helps with the overall look of things, you know, or the overall, you know, change in unemployment. We have a long way to go. We have a long way to go. Um, it's not easy to you know, to think about all this stuff
Mm.
because sometimes we have a lot of challenges, you know. So
Mm.
we have to see, wait and see, I guess.
Mm.
We have to work hard.
Yeah. Mm. Japan was suffering long years economic recession, but maybe the earthquake, it was kind of lucky for Japan. So they
Yeah,
a lot of donation and even government concentrate money to that place. So it's kind of construction boom.
yeah. It's it's not 100% easy, honestly. I think with Japan, it's actually really nice because I think if a young person really succeeds in Japan, like if a Japanese person wants to succeed, that they can because Japan has such an aging population. I think they need young people to stay in Japan and to work hard in Japan, right? Um,
But America has a kind of system. If you want to um, some, make some business, your own business, there are many supporting system, right?
yes, absolutely. Entrepreneurship in the United States is very highly valued, and
Mm.
still one of the things that I think is really good about America. Like if you want to do a small business, if you want to make your own business,
Mm.
it's very. There are a lot of support mechanisms.
Mm.
Absolutely, like the government helps you, private banks. You know, the system is in place for you to succeed if you work hard and if you are
In
not
Japan, it's
lazy. You
very
know.
difficult.
In
Mm.
Japan, it's very difficult, really.
It has no supporting system.
Good lighting, everything, no problems.
Maybe you are relaxed.
Yeah, definitely. I came home last night, fairly afternoon, but I was busy at night, and then today I'm just I have to do a lot of work, but I'm also relaxing a little bit on the side as well. Yeah,
Maybe you are very busy.
yeah, I'll get busy. It's always good to be busy, I guess.
Mm. You have another job? No.
I do, yeah. I have a bunch of stuff going on right now. So also applying to, you know, graduate school. So maybe I will be in school in a few months. I don't know. We'll see.
Mm. Still student?
Well, I was a student until 2 years ago, and then I worked for 2 years, and now I'm also working just, you know, Colingo and small jobs and reapplying to, you know, graduate schools to see
Mm.
if I can. because graduate, master's degrees are, I think they help you with when you want to get a career. I think they help. Because I only have a bachelor's so far, so
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. I don't know yet. It's kind of sometimes it's kind of stressful.
No
Wow.
feedback.
How come?
Yeah, before I opened my shop, at that time I went to the bank to borrow some money, but it was very difficult. They couldn't believe me.
Really?
Yeah.
How come?
Then finally I gathered some money from my parents. Then
Uh-huh.
I opened.
But why do they not want to believe people?
At first I was female.
Uh-huh. Why does that matter?
I don't know. Even my friend, she is a tax accountant. She
Uh-huh.
wanted to buy a small house. Then she went to the bank, but even the bank didn't believe her.
I
For
don't
men, for
understand.
men, it's very easy to borrow money from bank, but for female, it's very difficult. And now situation is changing. Mm.
I mean, I guess what I don't understand is why would the gender matter for if you want to, you know?
Mm. Almost already.
Honestly.